Welcome to Fireside Nets, brought to you by Empire Sports Media. We are your hosts. I'm Spen Harris. He's my little brother, Nick. And we are at probably the worst time of the season if you're a fan of the NBA, the All-Star break, Nick.
Yeah, what a really fun time for everyone. I got to give a shout out to my boy Mac McClung, a.k.a. Mac Mick Hung, because he absolutely crushed that Slammy D contest.
Yeah, I think Mac was probably the highlight of an overall shitty All-Star weekend.
Congrats, Jericho Sims. You could put your elbows in the hoop.
Yeah, I don't get why he thought that, like, in 2023, doing a Vince Carter dunk from 20 years ago. No, it was what, like 22, 23 years ago, would wow the judges. I'm not even sure why Jericho Sims was in the dunk contest to begin with. Him and Julius Randle were an absolutely abysmal representation of the New York Knicks. You had Jericho Sims, who stunk in the dunk contest, and then you had Julius Randle just shitting bricks in the three-point contest. As a Nets fan, it was nice to see.
Yeah, I'm honestly really happy Dame got it. I love Dame. The only really person I would have liked to see, I like Kevin Huerter. That would have been a cool underdog win. I didn't really want to see Tatum win it. Guy went off for 55 in the All-Star game, ended up getting his All-Star game MVP. All-Star game MVP is whoever shoots the most. So congratulations, bro. But no, I mean, listen, All-Star weekend, I think, has lost a little bit of its novelty. It's the All-Star game. No one plays D. They huck up shots. It's fun. It's nice to see some players palling around, dapping each other up, having a good time. I do like the dunk contest. I do like the three-point contest. That actually requires some sort of skill. But the rest was whatever for me.
I'll say three things about All-Star weekend. I'm happy that Kyrie Irving did not get All-Star MVP. If LeBron's team had won, there's a chance he might have taken MVP. So I was just happy that they lost, and I'm happy he didn't get MVP. I am wishing him nothing but misfortune in his basketball career for the rest of his life. That's number one. Number two, we're never going to get All-Star games like we used to get in 2001 and 1996 and all these years back in the day where guys actually gave a shit. We're never going to get that anymore. The only way we're going to get that is, and this is my third point, if you make the All-Star game meaningful. How do you do that? Bring it back to West versus East. I don't know why we had to switch it to this stupid, let's have the two captains pick teams. No, nobody likes that. It's we don't even do that like in pickup anymore. Don't do that. Do East versus West. Do it like you used to do it. And hey, here's an idea. Winner of the All-Star game, they get home court advantage in the NBA Finals. Problem solved. Players start to care more. Guys actually try. How many star players do you think sit out of the All-Star game if they know that winning gives their conference home court advantage? The answer is nobody. So
is there currently some sort of charity incentive in the All-Star game?
Is there a charity incentive in the All-Star game? I apologize for my dog barking.
That's okay. My dogs are barking too. I mean, listen, to me, it was like one of those things where if there's any sort of incentive, it doesn't have to be home court advantage, because let's think about that too, in the sense that a lot of those players aren't making the playoffs. So what stakes do they have on the finals? It gives some guys motivation. If it was like, hey, every player gets $100K donated to their favorite charity, the charity of their choice, because one charity shouldn't be favored over the other. They're all fantastic. If there was something like that we can do, where players felt like people were watching and expecting them to try, I agree. It would be a lot more fun. I mean, but is it something necessary? Do we need the All-Star game to be as exciting as the NBA playoffs?
If they're going to play it, then yes, we do. So, I mean, I get you're trying to be the Skip Bayless to my Shannon Sharp here in this, but
could we be like could we be like Greeny and like Dan Orlovsky? I don't want to be
sure.
Skip Bayless. Like, don't say that to me.
All right. Okay, but listen, we're burying the lead because there were no All-Stars from the Nets this past weekend. Unfortunately, the two former Nets, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who no longer play with the organization, they made the All-Star game. Nobody on this current Nets roster did. But we did get an Adrian Wojnarowski bomb this morning, Tuesday morning, around I think it was 8 or 9 a.m. Woke up to some nice news that Jacques Vaughn head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. He was initially the interim coach. He got promoted to head coach, and now he has received an extension from Joe Tsai and Sean Marks.
That's amazing. Good for him.
What do you think? Well-deserved?
I do think it's well-deserved. I think it's hard to judge any coach, even Steve Nash, a guy who had to face so much controversy, turmoil, up and downs from his players, from his staff, not knowing who he was going to have available, not knowing which talent was going to stay, which was going to leave. It takes time for a coach to develop players, for a team to mesh, to work well together. So I like Jacques Vaughn. I think he's got a great attitude. I think the players like him and respect him as a former Net. I think he has done the best he could under these circumstances. And at times this season, we've shined and he's looked incredible. And at times this season, we haven't shined and no one blamed him because there was so much other shit going on. It's not his fault Ben Simmons is a basket case. It's not his fault Kyrie's Kyrie. It's not his fault injuries as well. If anything, he's taken Claxton to another level. He's taken Cam Thomas to another level. There's these little victories. A lot more we want to see from a lot of these young guys and from this team coming together. But overall, what could I really say besides he did what he had to do, and he's looked good so far.
Yeah, Sean Marks of the extension said Jacques has made an immediate and immeasurable impact on our entire organization since assuming the role of head coach earlier this season. On the court, he's clearly demonstrated his leadership through his ability to connect and communicate at a very high level while displaying tremendous instincts for the game. As a person, they don't come any better than Jacques. His character is impeccable, and there is not a better representative for our team and our borough. We are thrilled to have Jacques lead the Nets for years to come. I said when this trade with Kyrie went down and then, a few days later, KD, I said the biggest loser in this was Jacques Vaughn because he had done up to that point an incredible job of, managing his players, managing the media, managing the expectations. He's done an exceptional job. You really can't point to Jacques Vaughn and outside of, maybe saying, okay, Cam Thomas should have played here or Seth Curry should have played there. He's done what he can to the best of his ability with this roster. And I think it was extremely telling that the Nets, I think, what was it, the day before KD was traded, right? Was it against, here, I want to take a look. So I know we beat the Heat. That was our win. We had beaten Chicago, right? So Chicago was the first game with Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith. It's a Chicago team that's trying to get to the playoffs, and we beat them 116-105. And you got to give Jacques Vaughn credit for that. These guys had not played with each other before, right? Like Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith just come in, he plugs them in, and we beat the Bulls. Lose a close game to the Sixers. We lose a game to the Knicks on Monday, February 13th that we're going to get into. But at the end of the day, I think the Knicks were due. And then we end, right before All-Star break with a huge win over Miami. Mikal Bridges is unlocked. We're going to get into that in a second. But I say all this to just point out that Vaughn has done everything that's been asked of him and more. When KD and Kyrie got traded, Vaughn could have easily laid down and been like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen for the rest of the season. We're going to see what we got. And we're probably going to lose in the first round. He hasn't taken that mentality. He's taken this optimistic mentality that, let's face it, I want him to be the face of the franchise right now as opposed to Sean Marks and Joe Tsai. Those guys are in the doghouse with Nets fans. Jacques Vaughn is the one guy who really doesn't have a blemish on his record this season. Obviously, he's failed as a head coach in Orlando. The Nets gave him a shot, I believe, when we fired Atkinson. He was our bubble head coach for a little bit, but that didn't stick. I'm thrilled that, Vaughn has been rewarded for everything he's done for this organization this year. And he was one of our better assistants these past few seasons with Steve Nash. So happy to see that. And I think this is a good segue into that final game of the first half of the season against Miami, 116-105. Nick, this was the Unleash Mikal Bridges game. 45 points for Brooklyn Bridges, as they're calling him now. 17 of 24 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3, 7 of 7 from the line. And he just did it in a variety of ways. Driving to the basket, the mid-range was there. I don't even want to make this comparison because I'm going to get killed for it, but you saw shades of Kevin Durant, of what Kevin Durant does on a basketball court in what
And Bridges is younger and a better defender.
The only thing Bridges doesn't have, he doesn't have the size. He's 6'6",
No,
KD's
no.
damn near 7 foot.
We can't compare Bridges to Durant.
We can't, but that performance was KD-esque, and he pretty much, the final thing was the Nets were looking for buckets in that fourth quarter. Cam Thomas provided a spark. He had 19 points off the bench. Another strong performance for Cam Thomas. We'll get into him in a little bit. But this was like Mikal Bridges willed the Nets to this victory.
Listen, I think Mikal Bridges showed flashes of greatness in Phoenix. That's why he was a valuable player there. That's why they made it to the finals. They had young guys like Bridges, Cam Johnson, who as 4 or 5 guys on a team is a fucking fantastic team, right? So now you bring Kevin Durant over there. You don't need Mikal Bridges. He was competing too much with Booker for shots. He was competing too much with Chris Paul to get up shots. So the fact that he's now on a team where he is top 2 scorers on the team, he's got top 2 offensive threats. I'd say him and Dinwiddie right now. I think Cam Johnson's a great scorer. If you see Cam Johnson in double digits the last 3 games as a net. But Mikal Bridges, he is a plays on both sides of the ball. He's a fantastic defender. He's hungry. He wants to prove himself. He didn't want to leave Phoenix. I know that he thought he was going to win a championship with that team, but to come here in this Nets organization and show how badly he wants it, how hungry he is, and then realize the opportunity he has to become a star. This is a team for him that's going to allow him to shoot volume to score 45 points. Now, we as a team shot 53%. He shot extremely efficiently. Cam Johnson, 18, shot extremely efficiently. So it was a great shooting night all around. But for him to get that volume of shots up, for us to give him the ball, for Dinwiddie to defer to Mikal Bridges, he now has an opportunity on his hands that he was never going to see in Phoenix. So for that to start to come to fruition, for him to show some flashes of being that guy, just amazing to see all around. Good win. The Heat to me aren't a threat. I know they've been on a good streak the past couple months. They started the season really slow, ended up now getting into the mid, playoff East contention. I need to see some bigger wins from these guys, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, but really great to see come together. And that obviously amazing night from Mikal Bridges, reminiscent of a Kyrie or a KD night in Brooklyn.
Yeah. And by the way, the job that he did on Jimmy Butler had 13 points. He was 4 of 11 from the field, no 3-pointers in 32 minutes. He was 5 of 5 from the line. But this was an awesome performance by the Nets against a Miami team that could have used this win. Shout out to Miami. They actually signed Kevin Love on the buyout market. So Kevin Love is taking his talents to Miami. I thought they maybe could have used a point guard. I thought maybe they were going to go after Russ, but nah, they went after Kevin Love. I don't know how much better he makes that team, but yeah, I agree with you in the sense that I don't see them being a threat to really any of the top teams in the East at this point. But then again, you can never count out Jimmy Butler once the playoffs start. So this was a nice win. The only other thing I want to say about this game, by the way, Ben Simmons, nowhere to be found. 2 points in 20 minutes, did virtually nothing. We've seen a little bit, and I don't want to kill him because I think he's been phenomenal this year. We've seen a little bit of a regression from Nick Claxton these past few games. I don't think it's because KD and Kyrie are not playing here anymore. I think that, as Jacques Vaughn said, he's gassed. He's been doing a lot for this team. And as a shout out to Brooklyn Netcast, those guys pointed out some of Claxton's best games this season have come without KD. So I don't think that their absence, does it hurt his production a little bit, but not as much as people think.
Right. I get that. I bet he's gassed. The attention that Kyrie draws on the offensive side. And we were even talking a couple of podcasts ago about the chemistry Kyrie and Claxton were developing, where Kyrie was actually finding him for alley-oops. Kyrie was finding him down low. Kyrie was looking good from a passing perspective and a finding the open man perspective. So I agree. He definitely has to be gassed, but there is something that comes in where all these younger guys now, they're not drawing the attention that KD and Kyrie are drawing. It doesn't allow Claxton to find those gaps as he was. And of course, when it comes to those alley-oops and those finishes under the hoop, you got to gain trust with these new guys. I think Dinwiddie's going to learn that fast. I think guys like Mikal Bridges are going to learn that fast, smart, high IQ players. It's just going to take some time. Last thing I want to point out before we move on to the next game, this Heat game.
I'm not ready to move on. Don't transition for me. Let me transition. We'll move on when I see we'll move on.
Okay, my point is Cam Johnson is already looking like he is going to eat all of Joe Harris and Seth Curry's minutes.
Which I'm totally fine with.
But it's like, shit, okay, like we were so worried. Who are we going to keep? Seth Curry, Joe Harris. Who's going to hit a three? Cam Johnson comes in here, and now he's shooting 45%, dropping 16 a game, and it's like Joe Harris who, Seth Curry who. In this game, they each had sub 10 minutes. I think maybe Harris had 13, Curry had 9, and Cam had 34 minutes. So it just really shows you what these guys do. These young guys. Cam Johnson wasn't even a starter in Phoenix. Right. He was like the first guy off the bench. He was a great scorer. But I mean, now he comes to this Nets team, and look what he's doing.
Did you see that? It was like a reverse let. No, how would you say it? He spun his body and threw the ball with one hand over his head for an and one layup. Did you see that?
No, I actually didn't.
Oh man, that highlight was sick. That was in the Heat game. You got to check that out. That was absolutely ridiculous. Cam Thomas, I mentioned him before. 19 points off the bench. He did a press conference after the game, with the media. Like he was part of the media press conference. Where basically, they asked him, they're like, what do you think of your role coming off the bench? He's like, and basically what he said was, he's like, it's a job. I'm here to do my job. It's a job. I'm paraphrasing, but my point is his demeanor was a little bit negative after a nice win. So I'm struggling to decide if that's just kind of how he is and he doesn't get super high on wins and he doesn't get super low on losses, or if he's hurting a little bit, because what more does he have to do to be a main legitimate scorer on this team? Or what more does he have to do to start? At this point, the guy had 3 40-point games in a row a week and a half ago, right before, Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith got here. He had 3 40 pieces in a row. And Jacques Vaughn still wants to bring him off the bench, which at this point, with the additions of Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, and Mikal Bridges, it's hard to find a place for him, right? Who do you bring off the bench out of those 3? I'd probably say DFS because he's going to be gone after this season. So it's an interesting dilemma. I'm not sure if he's actually annoyed with the situation or that's just his overall demeanor. I don't know him well enough. I haven't sat in on a lot of Cam Thomas's press conferences, but it's just something to look at down the line, when the Nets have to make a decision on whether or not he is a part of this future.
I agree. It's an interesting, hey, it's a good problem to have. We got guys who are competing for minutes and guys who are putting up some unbelievable numbers. So I like Cam. I like what Cam's done. We said 3 games in a row, and then he keeps coming back with 20-point games. So I don't know. Maybe we can get some value out of him. But, listen, I prefer Bridges, Cam Johnson, and Dinwiddie right now still. But just based on what
I forgot about, Dinwiddie.
Just based on what Cam Thomas does, but yeah.
Now we can move on to the Knicks loss.
Okay, King.
124-106. Jalen Brunson was the best player on the court by far. He had 40 points in this one. Josh Hart absolutely destroyed us with 27, and Julius Randle had 18. Here is my reaction to this Knicks win over the Brooklyn Nets. And by the way, Dinwiddie led the way with 28, but he had an inefficient shooting night. The Knicks were due. We had beaten the Knicks, was it 9 straight, 10 straight times? One or the other. We had a ridiculous amount of wins over the Knicks in a row, and that was dating back to before KD and Kyrie a little bit. So let's give the Knicks credit. They've been relatively the same team all season, playing a Nets team who were in their 3rd game together. The second game with Bridges and Cam Johnson. I love the fact that Knicks fans gloated about this win so much as though they won the championship. Guys, we play you again very soon, right? We play again on March 1st. So we'll have 3 games after the All-Star break. Then we play at Madison Square Garden. If you want to give a shit and gloat after that game, fine. But for you to sit here and be like, oh, the mighty Nets have fallen, I just didn't want to hear it. Joe Harris was covering Jalen Brunson for half the game. If you guys beat us in March, then you can talk shit, tell us we suck, the
They're
whole
gonna
9
talk.
yards. I'm fine
They
with
would
that.
talk shit if our entire team was injured before the game and we had to forfeit.
It was just so pathetic, though. I saw a lot of
I
people
agree.
running their mouth. It's like when we beat them, it's just business. It's like, hey, guys, we happen to, both play in New York City. You guys are in Manhattan. You've been here a little bit longer than us, but we've been spanking that ass these past few years, right? You spank that ass, Les. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would prefer if you didn't
Tropic
phrase it
Thunder
like
reference.
that. No, I get it. It's not really cool when you say it, but I agree. I mean, I got to give respect to Jalen Brunson. He's earning that contract. He's shown why he's a fat contract guy. He shoots it efficiently, man. He's got X factor. He's got balls. He's the guy they're building around, and I completely get it. Josh Hart too, coming back. Now I think he's shooting like 60% from three in the last 3 games, and he's now going to be a huge factor in New York. So I got to give respect to the Knicks, even though I despise them with all my heart. I'm not super worried about this loss, considering we just upended our entire team for new guys who are just coming together, while the Knicks are kind of getting into a groove of playing winning basketball with their young guys. So hate to see Knicks fans happy, not too bummed about the loss. I do believe when push comes to shove towards the playoffs, we are going to be a more complete, better designed, more efficient basketball team than the New York Knicks are.
Okay, we move on to a quick segment I like to call Buy or Sell. Kevin Durant did a little bit of a press conference in Phoenix. I don't want to talk much about KD and Kyrie moving forward, especially Kyrie, but I think KD, he deserves a little bit more credit for what he did in Brooklyn. Actually, a lot more credit. It makes sense that, the Nets gave KD this huge thank you. And I'm more upset about the whole Kyrie just entire tenure with Brooklyn than I am with KD asking out. Still upset with KD asking out. But I say all that because KD did a press conference in Phoenix, and he got choked up talking about the Nets a little bit. He talked about the grind. He talked about the culture they had built here. Obviously he talked about how he was kind of shocked when the Kyrie trade request came through, and he thought they had built something here. But he did talk about how important his stretch in Brooklyn was, and he got choked up a little bit. So I guess my question to you is, are you buying that, or are you selling that in the sense that you think KD just wrote up someone wrote up something for KD and he did a little bit of that acting he did in Thunderstruck?
If there's anything I've learned from having KD on my team, because I think you have a certain point of view when you watch someone, for KD, for example, go to the Thunder, become one of the best players in the world, go to the Warriors and win 2 championships, right? Like you sit there and you're kind of like, okay, I don't respect that. I don't like this guy. That's kind of a bullshit cheat move, especially from a star his caliber. Then he comes to the Nets, and I did develop this soft spot for KD, not because I thought obviously watching him crush it in a Brooklyn Nets uniform is amazing for anyone to see, but because I could tell he was actually trying to put into work and develop with these young guys. I could tell he was hype when Nick Claxton was coming into his own. I could tell he was hype when Cam Thomas was going off for 40 points. He wanted to be a part of this organization. He wanted to build this organization. And I hate to say it, but in a sense, this organization kind of let him down. This organization brought in James Harden, didn't work out, then brought in Ben Simmons, that hasn't worked out. Had Kyrie, how much controversy surrounding Kyrie, and now he's gone. I think it became a thing where it was like KD just wanted a fresh start. This team was riddled with so much bullshit, and to the point where if he stayed, we're still building around him, but with an entirely new roster that pushes the timeline of getting into a groove, of finding a rhythm, of working well together back a couple years when the dude is now, what, is he 34?
He's up there, yeah.
Let me just confirm that one.
Yes,
he's 34 years old. He wants to win another chip in the next few years. The Suns give him the best opportunity to do that, but that doesn't mean he didn't have his heart and this allegiance and this loyalty in Brooklyn. So I know everyone out there is going to say I'm crazy and they're always going to hate on KD.
No. That's not, people aren't going to hate on KD. Real Nets fans
understand, and players out there. He's not Kyrie, okay? Yeah. He's not Kyrie. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, no, I thought you were saying that Nets fans are going to hate on him. You're absolutely right. I think everybody, right, from Charles Barkley to all these people in the media and all these people who haven't had KD on their team are haters. And they're going to say, oh, he just, he chases championships and he goes to teams that are already set up for success and what have you. But I agree with everything you said. I thought that was put perfectly. He gave us his all for the time he played in Brooklyn. Yeah, he had a few injuries. He had the trade request in the summer, but he never sat out games for no reason. He showed up to work every single day. He put in the time. He put in the effort. And I think Nets fans adored that about him because he really was just about basketball. And the reason that I am buying him getting choked up about his time in Brooklyn, KD's not one to fake, right? He's one of the most real dudes in the league in the sense that he's not going to sugarcoat how he feels. He's going to tell you, I'm Kevin Durant. He said that a few years ago in that playoff series with the Clippers. So I think those are real emotions we saw. And I just want to thank him on this podcast. Even though I'm upset about it, I would have loved to see him finish out the season in Brooklyn. I want to thank him for his time with the Nets. Outside of Jason Kidd, watching him play was the most fun I've ever had watching the Nets play basketball.
I agree. Thanks, KD. I hate to say this. If he wins a ship with the Suns, I won't be that upset.
I'd rather him lose. All right. I definitely don't want Kyrie to win, but I'd rather.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
All right. Final segment. We have 24 games remaining. Out of the break, we have the Bulls, the Hawks, the Bucks, the Knicks, and the Celtics. 5 games against Eastern Conference opponents. We have a tough schedule down the stretch, Nick. So I want 2 questions. We're going to start with those 5 games. Bulls, Hawks, Bucks, Knicks, Celtics. What do we finish in those first 5 games?
3-2. And I could tell you how it plays out. We beat the Bulls. We beat the Hawks. We lose to the Bucks. We beat the Knicks in a nail biter, and we lose to the Celtics in Boston.
I am going to 100% agree with that. I'm gonna 3-2. I think that's exactly how it plays out. And the other part of my question is, the Nets are the 5 seed right now, I believe. And I'm just going to fact check that. Yeah, Nets are the 5 seed. They're right below the Cavs, and they're 2 games ahead of the Knicks. Where do they finish the season, Nick?
I'm going to say that we're going to stay the 5 seed. I don't think we'll catch the Cavs, Sixers, Bucks, or Celtics. I think we'll slowly start to inch our way away from the Knicks and Heat. I will say, if I had to bet right now, we hold this 5 seed position with all our freaking might, which would put us at playing the Cavs in the first round.
Which would be a 6 series.
Which would be a great series. I wouldn't. I'm nervous about the Cavs. I'm not terrified of the Cavs.
I mean, who would you rather play? Right.
I would almost rather play the Cavs than the Knicks in a 7-game series. So
okay, but you were about to say you'd rather play the Cavs and the Sixers. You'd rather
Bucks,
play
Celtics, of course.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
I think we get the 7th seed. I think we slip a little bit, and it's not a knock on our players, and it's not a knock on our coach. It's the fact that a lot of these teams are the same teams that they were 2 weeks ago, with maybe an addition here or there, right? Like, how many teams really changed drastically? You had the Lakers who made big moves, you had the Clippers who made big moves, and you had the Nuggets who added Reggie Jackson and lost Bones Highland. So outside of those and the Suns, obviously. Outside of those teams, everyone's relatively the same. That's the only reason I think we lose a few of these big games down the stretch, is because we just we're not going to have that cohesiveness after 3-4 weeks of playing together. So I think we get the 7th seed. I think that we have a playing game with, I would say right now, I'm going to say the Atlanta Hawks. We get a playing game with them. We beat them because they're dysfunctional and they stink. And then we'll probably go and play like the Bucks or the Celtics in that first round. Okay. And I'm not predicting that series yet. We're going to wait until it actually happens.
Ooh, spicy. Cool.
A little spicy, yeah. All right, Nick. Great episode. That does it for this week's version of Fireside Nets, brought to you by Empire Sports Media. Thank you for listening to episode 140.
9.
No, it's 140.
Oh, the top of the screen says FSN 149.
That's a typo.
Oh, okay.
It's
Happy
episode
140.
140.